probably paying 10,000, something like that. I know one of these agreements from 2007, I think the reference is a number of like $7,000, $8,000. I would imagine it's gone up since then, but it's a low number.
Other questions? Mr. Azar?
Did you say that we became a party when the amendment was signed in 1993?
Yeah, I believe that's right. That's the amendment number 2.
Yeah, I think that amendment was signed in 2002.
No, 2002.
There's a comment on here that said that we were advised back in 1993 about the deficiencies. So that's,
Okay.
It references a 1974 agreement.
I think that was the original agreement. And then,
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're absolutely correct.
So-
That amendment was executed in 2002.
and so I'm just like, I mean, this is all news to me, at least, probably to more than just me.
20 years ago.
So it looks like there was a disagreement that we were the owner of the sewer and we lost, to be blunt, right? So, the liability was
No,
debated back then and then they signed this agreement?
No, that court case regarding the ownership of the sewer had to do with the developer in the township who went to the township and wanted to make a connection to the sewer line and made that demand on the township. And the township said, it's not our line. We can't, it's a private line. We can't give you permission to connect with it. They objected to that interpretation and went to court. And the court did in fact find that it was a private line. We did it by the not force the township to allow it.
So then we signed this amendment, which increased our rightfully, our contribution to the facility. Is that right?
I think the amendment more was to clarify some of the payments in terms of the amount of the paid over times. I don't think it was 100% clear how those payments were supposed to be calculated and what it was based on. And I think amendment number 1 allowed use of a water record as opposed to sewage record. Because up until then, it was supposed to be that you were supposed to be paying based on sewage flow. There were no sewage meters.
Is there any reason we couldn't open up that line to a developer if one decided they wanted to tie into the sewer line?
Good question. There's going to be a lot more work done on what's called the Act 537 plan. Because the township, part of what played in, I go back up and I'll answer. I promise I'll answer your question. So, part of what was going on in trying to connect to RWA, besides the question of what capacity might be available to service facilities that were outside of the RWA service area. Remember, RWA is Cross-Green, Southern, South Abington Township. Your flows are coming from Newton Township. Part of the hospital is in South Abington Township. So there's a whole question as to whether or not whether or not RWA had capacity, and they did have capacity, whether their members really wanted to allow it to be used for outside of the service area and say it paid for a large upgrade. The other side of the coin was the township, who under this 1974 agreement has rights to sewage usage within this treatment plant, and has an Act 537 plan, which is a state-approved sewage facilities plan that says that their sewage is going to go to this plant, and they didn't want to give that up. So the question is, your question is, can we allow a developer to connect to our line? So it's tied into, it becomes tied into the township's Act 537 plan, because the 537 plan determines what areas are allowed to be serviced by this wastewater treatment plant. So if it were an area that was within the 537 plan and could go to this plant, then it could conceivably connect to the line. It gets a little bit more nuanced than that.
I'm beginning to think you're singing one of your daughter's songs.
So the problem is you're a private line.
Yeah.
So as a private entity, you don't necessarily have the right to just let other private entities connect up to. That has
But,
to
but at
the
the,
township.
at the same time, if there was a developer that wanted to tie into our line and then was within the 537 area, would that not be a way that we might be able to spread the cost?
Oh, so you could conceivably work out an agreement to get some reimbursement of the cost of your line, allowing them to use your line.
But we'd have to monitor the flow.
It just gets more complicated because you're not a PUC regulated entity, you charging somebody for using sewage capacity becomes a little bit more complicated. But there are ways to, for example, you built this line, somebody else wants to use it, you could recoup some of your cost for that. But in terms of the sewage flow, right now, the only sewage capacity that will be constructed will be for those entities that are going to pay for it. So the hospital is going to be a user, the school, I'm assuming, will continue to be a user. You certainly could make a case that you want to put in a pump station and I guess you could ask our wife connected. I mean, you'd probably be in the same situation we were just in. I don't think that's going to work. There are two users. So based upon those two users, we're going to establish a flow rate and we're going to design a treatment plant that can service the needs, the current and the future needs for those two users. If somebody else, another developer in the township wants to come forward, and there has been at least one who's approached the township, they would then have to pay a portion of their share. So to the extent that there are fixed costs, and the more you have, there's an economy of scale, so those percentage costs can go down for everybody if there's other people who want to come in. But that's a pretty, you have to make a dent in those flows, you're gonna have to put in 100 houses or something. How quickly that gets done is kind of a development issue. But yes, there could be ways.
I mean, it seems to me, at the very least, when you're designing this, you will have to have some way of being able to determine that some developer is going to put 100 houses in or 200 houses, because if you design the system based upon the current users and somebody says they want to put 200 houses, you're probably going to far exceed the capacity of what you designed.
Right. So, part of this whole process is there will be an Act 537 plan update for the township. So, and as part of that, there will be a public input portion. So there will be advertisements, there will be discussions over that. So there will be opportunities for developers to step forward. But there's no such thing as free lunch. If no developer steps forward and the township still wants, we want to have 50,000 gallons of reserve capacity, the state's not going to build that. They can't just build 50,000 gallons of reserve capacity for private use, not allowed to. So the township would have to come up with that money. I doubt that that's something that they will be in a position to do to front that money. So what we will do, what we've talked about, is we will design the plant so that it can be expanded in the future with additional modules. So if we design like a treatment train, we'll leave areas that other treatment trains can be added in. We'll size certain portions of the electrical capacity and the networks so that those things can be added in the future in a modular fashion. But that would be the way it would have to be done. We certainly encourage anybody who is thinking they want to do that to be part of this planning process, come up front and participate in that expense up front. I think in the long run, that's for everybody. You can't do that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Durkin, thank you very much. I should point out to the board, this is northeastern Pennsylvania, of course, and Mr. Durkin was very proudly talking about growing up in Clark's Green. He neglected to tell you he moved south. He now lives in West Piston.
I live over the county line. So
We went out of the county too.
I go back and forth, My email is on there, my phone number is on there, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to either call me or shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer them for you. And at some point or other, you can either invite me back or I'll come back uninvited and I'd let you know what I'm
In other words, we really don't have a choice whether you come back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Tom Ken Vian, is that correct?
Yep.
From Clark Summit? Apologize if I mispronounced that.
I'm just gonna leave, this is a copy of the original 74 agreement and the 2 amendments, so somebody doesn't have to research it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Great, I can attend this meeting in concert, with all your stuff that you guys put your hair out, thank you for your service on that, and without wasting. So, you guys got your hands full, so I feel a little insignificant with my little concern that I have. I tried to address this last year and, did talk to the principal over at, the grade school on Grove Street. And the problem that we're having is not road in the morning and in the evening. And it was precedent for me coming to that. I didn't even know. I looked on the chart. I thought you guys met on Thursday or whatever. And I saw that you met tonight. But I had a near miss today coming home. And I actually had to pull over as far as I possibly could to the car that was parked waiting to pick up their kid. And the other driver coming down on their cell phone. Actually, I have an SUV, thank God. She has the mirror under my mirror. This is an everyday occurrence. It's dangerous. If we had a, God forbid, fire truck, an emergency vehicle had to get up there during those 2 times, 8:30 and 2, it could get blocked. And they're so jammed in, people couldn't get out of the way or whatever. They start lining up before 2 o'clock. I asked the principal, I guess dismissal is 2:55. That's an hour they sit there. I got the thing and I walked there, and first of all, I'm a resident of Floral Park for 44 years. Lived there all my life since I moved here. Never had this problem until COVID. And that's what the principal told me, that their hands are kind of his hands. And I understand he doesn't have the authority. That's why I'm here tonight. I don't know whether the school board has the authority, the superintendent has the authority to address this problem. And I think it's an easy fix. I don't know why you can't put another gate up farther on your property, up where the refreshment stand is for the soccer. Because the excuse he gave me is that kids play in the parking lot. And I understand that. You can't have cars coming through there if there's kids in a parking lot playing. Either redo the recess or put a gate. The simplest thing to me is 2 sawhorses with 2 stop signs. Raise the gate at 2 o'clock, and most of that traffic would be off. Other solution, I don't understand why it's a 2-way entrance and exit. At night, buses come out. Parents are coming out of there, they don't see the stop sign because it's buried in the trees. They come straight out thinking that, there's no other traffic on this road. Why it's 2 ways, I have no clue. I think another solution would be to cut that 2-way off, double park these people. Have somebody out there, then one goes, the other goes. I mean, you can get this traffic off of that road. And I think it's a simple solution, either have an automatic gate, which probably costs a couple $1,000. You have one down at the beginning of it. Or a letter needs to go out to these parents. I'm going to be addressing Clark Summit. I don't know whether they can put no parking signs up there from 2 o'clock to 2:30. Maybe a thing coming, they start lining up at 2:30. But even at 2:30, it's still a half an hour. And it seems to me it's just for convenience, most of it. Do we provide bus transportation? I think.
Yes.
So as a senior citizen, that's one of our gripes at our little coffee clutch in the morning. We see all these buses. We try to beat the buses to get to McDonald's before they go, but there's only like 4 kids on this big bus.
You're saying we should put a Starbucks right there too to make it even more interesting?
You should. But, I don't know whether
We are in the.
trying to address that a little bit, or it just seems to me, I don't understand why you can't open your driveway up to where the kids are, that they're not gonna go through it.
It's
And
We're in the process right now, I didn't mean to cut you off, but we're in the process right now of going through a pretty extensive facility study. And one of the issues is on all these buildings is traffic flow. And traffic flow from the standpoint of exactly what you're talking about and also security. So I think your comments are very timely. I'm not sure when
I know,
we'll get a resolution, but
runs this slow.
we do hear you.
I understand that, so I just